So, as you all know, this is for my thesis presentation, and what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, you're basically going to be clicking. Do you want to just stay up there? I don't know. Yeah, okay. So, a little... I might just do it myself. You know what? I'll do it myself. Let me be self-sufficient. So, a little overview of what we're going to do. So, rationale. Why am I doing this? Why did I do it? What is holistic education? What is mindfulness? And then what has been the research that's been done on mindfulness in general education, mindfulness in special education. Then we get into my own research with methods and procedures, here's the results, analysis and discussion, the limitations, here's the mistakes I made, and then what can we research in the future? So rationale, why is this important? First and foremost, holistic education, and by extension mindfulness, has the potential to make a positive impact on our future by improving the quality of life and the skills for our students, first and foremost, to make them prepared for adulthood, and then for our teachers and our communities, that can get us, hopefully, to where in the future we have the adults with the skills and knowledge we need to make this place a little bit better. Another reason is that while some research exists in this field, there needs to be more of it. It needs to expand and really become more of a mainstream, regular thing. And lastly, I've gone through all the classes. I've done core reflection, I've done social emotional learning, and the things I found and gained from those classes were really powerful. And I want others to be able to experience that, especially those students with special needs who may not get the opportunity otherwise if that's not incorporated into their education. So, what is holistic education? I remember when I showed April my topic and she goes, holistic education, what? So that's in there for you. It's to give anyone who doesn't know a background, because one of the ideas is, yes, this is a scholarly and research paper, but I also want a teacher or a principal who may not know what all of this is to pick up that paper and say, hey, this is some good stuff. This is valuable. So for someone who doesn't have a background in it, I want it to be accessible for them as well. So holistic education is based on the idea that each person finds meaning and identity in their life via connection to each other, to the natural world, and to core values like joy, peace, things like that. The big difference between a traditional formal curriculum and a holistic curriculum is its focus on every student as an individual and as a whole being. So instead of just looking at them as a compilation of test scores, it recognizes that students have a family background, have their whole culture, their interests and skills, their strengths, and some weaknesses that might need to be worked on. And what it does is it takes into account all of those when creating and implementing lessons, units, and throughout the year. Jack Miller, who is like the most foremost person and wrote the holistic curriculum book, he talks about the transaction and transformation models. And what those are, we start with the formal curriculum where it's a one-way interaction. The teacher talks, and the students listen and are required to learn at the same pace from the same materials. Transaction does have a two-way communication, so the students can interact with each other, with the teacher, with the materials, and it's dialogue-based, it's interaction-based, but it's still very focused on academics. There isn't very much room for things like maybe the arts or dance or movement. It's still more academic-centered. And then transformation is what holistic education is, and then that incorporates things like we just did, so relaxation exercise, art, music, dance, being outside in nature, and really creates an enriched and more complete teaching and learning experience. Rachel Kessler, in her book, The Soul of Education, she breaks this down deeper into the components that should really be in a classroom that works on a holistic framework. So time for silence and thought and meditation, the need for creativity, the need for self-exploration, guided self-exploration in the bigger questions that adults might ask. Why am I here? What's the purpose? More the existential questions that we usually ask, but students also ask. And they really need to be guided through that. So that's what holistic is. A subsection or one practice within holistic education is mindfulness. And what that means is paying attention on purpose to the present moment and without judgment. Just means observing the world and saying, hey, this is how things are, and maybe this is what I feel about them, but they're not really letting those feelings influence things too much, recognizing that they're there, but not necessarily letting those control the situation. So that goes into, it's about logic. It's about looking at a situation in a slightly detached way. So the example I actually do in the thesis paper itself is of a student, and let's say he's sitting in a classroom and he's overhearing the conversation of a couple of peers, let's say one row behind him, and they're saying some things that are really ticking him off. And if he is trained in mindfulness, the hope is that he might recognize, hey, this is upsetting to me, and he might take a deep breath and say, but I know what to do about it. So he might get up and remove himself from the situation, or maybe he might go tell the teacher and she could deal with that. But, using that mental and logical approach as opposed to turning around and snapping at them, going, and really causing a big incident. So that's what mindfulness would allow someone to do, is to take that moment, think about it, and then do. The most basic form of mindfulness is breathing, because it's universal to everyone breathes, and it's relatively easy to control and relatively easy to focus on. It's there. You don't need any other materials or anything. You just do kind of like what we do. Other types of mindfulness could include art, drawing, painting, listening to music or playing music, dancing, writing, walking. There's mindful eating. There's a whole huge umbrella that I feel like anything could be turned into a mindful activity. So I really like this broad range of possibilities for students with a variety of needs, and to be able to incorporate their interests into whatever mindfulness activity is being done. So, mindfulness and general education. What we have currently is there are a variety of organizations and curricular programs that they work with students in the schools, in the community, and in correctional facilities. And programs like Peace in Schools, Learning to Breathe, those are organization-based, and then Mind, which is a pre-made curriculum, which can be implemented by a school or a classroom or a district. And then we also have mindfulness programs for teachers and parents to teach them how to be mindful, and then so that they can teach their children or their students about how to be mindful. So it really explains to them why is this so important, right? And that's mindful schools and care for teachers. All of these are in the resources section. So what are the benefits of mindfulness? And these are not just program specific, these are general benefits. So there's reducing stress, anger, and anxiety, improved self-esteem, improved social behavior, improved sleep. There's, I'll just name off a few more, reduced depression, improved emotional empathy, so understanding the emotions of others, improved the ability to connect to others. So mindfulness and special education. So there is, like I said, there is a small amount of research that does look into mindfulness and special education. A little bit, but we could always use more. Most of the research that I found focused on exceptionalities that we might see within the special education classroom, but not done within the special education setting. So we had one that looked into using mindfulness to improve children's compliance with their parents' requests, and we did see compliance go up. Mindfulness for autism and its benefits were things like emotional regulation and empathy and being able to relate and understand the emotions of others, which is a big deal for kiddos on the spectrum. Then there were a few that dealt with, specifically with adults. The TBI, traumatic brain injury, looked at a group of adults post-injury and focused on the psycho-emotional aspects of recovery, not just the physical ones. And what it found is by focusing on the positive, so what could the people still do? What hobbies or activities might they do instead? That decreased rumination and it improved mood and by extension quality of life for them. And then the last few were kind of the group that dealt with anger, depression, and anxiety. And those studies also found an improvement in mood and decrease in negative symptoms, increase in positive ones. Which, we see depression and anxiety and anger and behavior things in the special education classroom. So I think that's wonderful news. So with all of that background info, what am I actually looking at? And the question is what are the impact of regular mindfulness practice on the on-task behavior of students with special needs? I'm going to address a question that Young B and Elizabeth asked me is, why am I not specifying which special needs here? Why am I just saying that? And the reason being is, and I explain this in the essay itself, is because for me what's important is the behavior itself. I think of off-task behavior as being universal, whether it's in the general education or special education, regardless of exceptionality. So what I wanted to look at is the broad picture of off-task behavior, really regardless of what's causing it or what's the underlying thing. Moving on. So methods and procedures. First and foremost, getting the approval of the instructional review board was a challenge. It was insane and scary at times, but I got it done. So then I figured out, once I got IRB approval, I had to do the permission forms so that everything is nice and by the book and nobody's going to throw this out for whatever reason. So I ended up working with 5 6th grade students in an ELA resource room here at our middle school.
What is ELA?
English Language Arts. Sorry. And there were 2 classes, so I had 3 students in one group, 2 in the other. And other than doing observations and the mindfulness sessions, I got to spend an hour and a half with each group twice a week. So I really got to know them and got to see the context and the nuances behind what was going on. So 30-minute observation sessions done as a standard intervention with baseline, intervention, and follow-up data points. So I operationalized off-task because that is a big term. So what I was looking for specifically is, are they out of their seat or wandering around without permission? Are they engaged in conversations with their buddy or with another peer, or interrupting class with unrelated comments? And last is, are they engaged in other activities, like maybe they're playing with their, pencil or fidgeting or working on work other than what they're supposed to be doing here in class. And so for the sessions, I did 10 to 15 minutes at the start of each class with the group at the back table in the class. And then they would go on to join the rest of the class, at which point I would start the observation. And during the observations that I wasn't doing sessions, I just do observations right at the start of class. And then last, to kind of give me a more broad perspective of what I was seeing, I decided to do exit surveys with the teachers and the students too. Because I'm the only observer, so I wanted something to balance my own observations and say, hey, am I on the right track, or am I just seeing what I'm seeing? Kind of to have a bit of a control variable to make sure that I'm not just, crazy and seeing something else that nobody is. So I included our group rules from both groups, and we would go over these at the end of each session, and most of them were followed most of the time, and they could recite them from memory after a few times. I think this is my favorite one: use materials appropriately, no throwing or eating. And you can see that for a lot of them, they're similar. So no blurting, no yelling, raising your hand, listening when someone is talking, being respectful and helpful. And they came up with 90% of these on their own. I didn't really have to do much prompting. So we'd go over these and we kind of do a welcome and check-in from previous session, from the previous week, just to catch up and see how things are going. And then we would get into whatever activity we were doing, whether it's playing with Play-Doh or drawing or writing in the journals, going outside, having a discussion, whatever that may be. And then we would close the session and they would go and rejoin the class. So, getting into results. This is the baseline. And these are our student initials. And this ranges from 35 down to 1. And that is a huge range. So imagine a kiddo having 35 different off-task instances in a 30-minute observation period. So that's huge. That's big. And I was very happy to see that as we continued with the sessions, his numbers, PSS numbers, they did go down. So here the highest we have is 12, and then for another student we went all the way down to 0. And that's really exciting to see. And then in the follow-up, what we have is everyone was under 6. And then we just have this one outlier with PSS again. And I think that was as much environmental, because that was my last day there. And so we did a lot of different activities. And I think that was more environmental than anything else. So I mentioned the ranges here. And I'm going to go back and talk about some of these. So right here, I can give context for the spike because I was there and that's when we had a class party and we were watching the movie. So HSK, she was very into the movie and very chatty, and she's like, I know what's coming next, and I think this is going to happen next. Which, while predictions are wonderful, it was kind of interrupted to the rest of the class and to them watching the movie. So she was one of my bubbliest kiddos.
Anastasia, do you mind going back a slide?
This one?
No, this one.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll be getting to this one.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I had to go back.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Fine.
I'm sorry. Okay, so this one, the numbers did go down, and what's going on right here is that PND and PSS, they really got to be really good friends over the course of me working with them. And regardless of me working with them, they got to be good friends over that time period. And PSS, he is very squirrely, very, one of my more difficult kiddos, wonderful student, just squirrely. And what happened right here is, this is the day that we went outside with them, and there was a lot of oppositional and non-compliant things going on that day. They were just crazy, doing whatever they were wanting to do. However, after that, they did come back, and they apologized, and after that, they were doing pretty good.
Question? Sorry. This is observations during the mindful intervention.
Yeah.
What are you doing at those times?
So I would do the session first, and then observe afterwards, but what we were doing are the mindfulness activities. So we would do our check and go over the rules, and then we would do whatever activity we had for that day, whether it was a discussion about what mindfulness might mean for them, or a breathing exercise, or going outside or writing in their journals. So that broad scope of mindfulness.
And so what would they be doing during the baseline activities?
Okay, so during baseline, I was just observing them. I wanted to see how they are before I started working with them. They would just work on classwork or whatever they were doing as part of their regular classwork, as part of their regular day. Then, when I would do the interventions, I would pull them aside for the first 15 minutes of class and then continue observing for the next 30 to see how they were doing with the intervention. Does that make sense?
So yeah, and then what's the third slide you have?
And then the follow-up is, come on, computer. And then the follow-up is we went back to not doing mindfulness. So we finished the mindfulness sessions, I gave them a 2-week break where I didn't work with them. First, because it was spring break, and also because I wanted to see if the impact of the intervention would continue without me working with them on a daily basis, not a daily basis, on a regular basis.
So the observations are all on different days?
Yeah.
Like the baseline is a different day from the mindfulness day? Or is the mindfulness day right after the baseline?
So
on the same day?
For 2 weeks, I worked with them twice a week, Tuesday or Thursday, doing just the baseline observations, no mindfulness. Then the next 6 weeks, yeah, I think it was the next 5 to 6 weeks, I would do the mindfulness session with them at the start of class, and then observe them for 30 minutes after that. And then after the 2-week break, I go in again, and I got 3 days with them, so over 2 weeks, and I would just observe them with no intervention on my part.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, just so I'm clear in my mind, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
The,
I'm sorry if I was unclear.
no, you're pretty clear. The observations during the mindfulness slide were observations after the mindfulness intervention.
On
is
the
that right?
same day, but right after the
Right
intervention.
after, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
What's the term? Subsequent?
I would think so,
I
yeah.
have a question about the data on that middle slide. Is it one of the particular students I'm looking at? I'm looking at the red line.
Red.
And
NDR.
NDR. And I'm noticing that you get a lot of lows sort of early and in the middle, but you end on a fairly high level. And I think, if I remember from the slide before, that same student had a lower, low baseline. And the baseline had the lowest, or at least the second lowest baseline. Can you talk about that? Because that student seems to rise at the end.
He was one of my awesome students. He was one of the ones where I was wondering why is he even, part of this, because he was so low. And honestly, just the numbers suggest that his behaviors did increase, and they did a little bit, but I will talk about surveys in a bit. And survey-wise, both the teacher and the TA noticed that he actually began participating in class more, if that makes sense. So the numbers are the numbers, but then on the qualitative side, we did see an improvement in behavior and participation.
So in other words, what you're saying is you get higher numbers because he's interacting more and therefore having more chances to make mistakes.
Perhaps. I can't say definitively, but
that's what you're suggesting.
I'm not suggesting it. I'm not suggesting it. It might be one explanation, but I'm not going to go so far as to say yes. I'm not going to speculate on that.
Good job.
Not touching that. So here's follow-up. And so, big picture right down here. So if you think about our range, we started from 1 to 35. And then at follow-up, our highest number was 6 with an outlier of 17. That is a huge decrease in range. And even though that was due to one particular student with the 35, that's still really significant. Looking at individual students, we saw they kind of waffled around. 3 or 4 of them did become more on task, became more focused, and that came across as much in the surveys as it does in the data. But so per student we saw a smaller increase than we did in the general range. But I think for a study this size with 5 students and 8 intervention sessions, I think even a small decrease in off-task behavior is a good sign, considering the scope of things.
Nancy, I have a question.
Oh.
So you said you were doing this for 15 minutes with your sessions with them, and then you do some observations?
Yeah.
When looking at the data, did you do like mindfulness discussion one day or breathing one day, and with those different things you did you notice any difference? Like, did you repeat any sessions? I'm wondering if the data matches up with what you were instructing them on that day. Does that make sense?
I honestly didn't, I didn't notice anything, and that's probably because I wasn't thinking of that as a component to look at. Like, for this study, that's not a thing that I was keeping track of. Fair?
Okay.
Okay. So here, I actually put in some of their journal entry drawings. So this one was SG's response to think of a time that made you happy, and he talked about how when he got to go to Canada. And then this was NDR's picture of Hawaii. I don't know if you can tell. See it? And then this was NDR's picture for when we did a visualization. And then I asked them to kind of draw a reaction to that. So he drew this forest and the trail that we were visualizing. So that's, I let them keep their journals, but I took pictures of a bunch of them. And this is just 3 of a whole variety. Just to show you some more qualitative things. So, speaking of qualitative, so I did 2 surveys, one with the students, one with the teacher and the TA. And in the student survey, I asked, what did you like or dislike? Did you feel any changes in yourself? Would you do mindfulness again? Are there any other comments or questions? And the consensus was that there weren't very many dislikes. The one dislike we did have is with HSK and her resistance to deep breathing, because it was so difficult for her to return to a normal breathing rate. So when she would focus on her breathing, it was really hard to unfocus then. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't really come back to doing more deep breathing, is specifically for that consideration. I didn't want it to be just another thing that they were told to do. I wanted it to be meaningful for them, so I went back to the activities that made them happy. Like, like we did a lot of journal entries. We did visualization a few times because those were the activities that seemed to be most meaningful to them. Everyone liked drawing. They loved the Play-Doh. They loved going outside, of course. Another dislike was SG with not really liking writing so much in the journal, but that's because writing was difficult for him in general. So for the teacher and the TA, I asked, did you notice any changes in the students? Just to see, are they seeing what I'm seeing? Other questions, comments. So they saw major improvements with SGPSS and PND, some minor improvements with NDR, and really no improvements with HSK. And she was my most, I guess, she was most skeptical or most resistant to it, I guess, is the best way to put it. You know, she kind of played along with the activities, but I'm not sure if she really understood the significance or the meaning of that, if that makes sense. So, maybe because she wasn't really getting into them is one of the reasons she didn't really make too much improvement. And there's a whole background with her and things that go on totally outside the classroom that I have no control over, which also most likely played a role in that. Study-wise, they both thought that it was well organized and very necessary for this age group. These are 6th graders. They're just, maybe starting to hit puberty and going into middle school and eventually high school, and they're going to encounter all these new and emotional, crazy situations and changes in life. So, maybe knowing some of the breathing techniques or saying, hey, journaling is something I could do to express myself would hopefully be beneficial for them continuing on. So what did I find after all that? So general consensus is that yes, mindfulness does decrease off-task behavior, increases on-task behavior in most students, by however small a margin in this case. Other the kind of co-benefits that we found is the students were more focused and more calm and participated a little bit more in class, especially in the arts case. So we're a lot more willing to participate and engage. So, limitations. There's a whole bunch. One really big is that the study is done here in Ashland. And some people, yes, it's all Ashland's fault. And some people, some teachers have experience with mindfulness. In fact, my cooperating teacher had done mindfulness with these guys in the past, earlier that year. And PSS had done independent mindfulness for behavior management with his counselor. So, they had some exposure to that already. So I wonder how that would turn out, how this study would turn out in some place like Grants Pass, or even Medford. So another one is that it's a small group of students and few sessions, so validity? Yeah. So it's really hard to generalize the results because it's such a small subject pool, data pool. The need being a single observer and my experience leading mindfulness sessions. So much of it hinged on my ability to observe, to interpret the results, to lead mindfulness activities properly, because studying mindfulness and leading mindfulness are two very different things. And I realized that after the first few sessions I kind of had a bit of a crisis of faith, and I'm like, what in the world? William remembers me running through and going, what do I do? And we got through it. Apparently I didn't do too badly. And then the last one is all of the external factors that I cannot control for. The classroom is a huge and dynamic place with factors from the students' whole lives, from maybe how much sleep they got, had they eaten that morning, maybe their dog died, which didn't happen to anyone, but all of these factors that I really could not control for, and really, there's no way to tell to what degree those were impacting the results I was getting versus what I was doing. And I suppose when you're working with people, it's really hard to control for all the variables. So, future research. First and foremost, someone needs to take this on a bigger scale. Because I don't me saying myself that, I think it's a decently well-organized study. The biggest limitation is how small it is. I think that this structure and this system could be applied on a bigger scale and potentially with successful results. Also, maybe looking at other behaviors. So maybe look at attention, look at specifically at focus, maybe look at pro-social behavior, but still not getting into the disability side, looking at those more as universal behaviors. And then another one is then looking at specific disabilities. Specifically, how does mindfulness impact students with ADHD, with autism, maybe those who are hard of hearing, those who have low vision, not limited to cognitive exceptionalities. Another one that Elizabeth mentioned, and I didn't actually get on the slide, because it's kind of stuffed as it is looking into mindfulness training for teachers and using mindfulness as an intervention before special ed referral. So using mindfulness as a part of RTI with highly qualified trained teachers, so that we don't get as many referrals into special ed if we can help. And so that would be another interesting one that connects to this. here are the resources, and that's, my contact info, because I was using the same